record. Donna's holding up our record button for me. Thank you, Donna. And she's also going to chat to you as well as sharing some information, expertise about resources, about referencing as well. So what this is going to be particularly helpful for is the case studies that everyone is going to prepare for this semester. It'll be helpful for other assessments too, but I hope you draw a lot from it. So just before we go again, I just want to make sure I've admitted everyone. Yep, I think so. Okay, so if you're happy, just before I hand over to Lily, just once again, let me ask everyone, just once you're in, if you don't mind just turning your video off, and you'll be on mute for a little while. But as I'm sure Lily will reaffirm, you're happy to ask, pop in and ask a question when it comes to mind. So just at that stage, turn your video back on, and also enable your microphone. Lily, I just see there's a couple more people just jumping in, so I'll let them in. Okay, everyone, I might hand over to Lily, let her take the reins, and I'll see you at the end.
Okay, hello everybody. What I'm going to do is, I've got a PowerPoint that I've prepared, so I'm going to move through the PowerPoint and then to the library website and try to do a few things live, and we'll just see how it goes. I haven't made any slides of the library website, but we're just hoping that you'll be able to see everything. So I'm going to go and share my screen with you. And so, Paul, can you tell me if you can see that first screen?
I can,
yeah?
Lily. Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. So welcome to the library searching and referencing tutorial. At the end of today's session, I hope that you'll be able to list the steps in basic and advanced searching, that you'll be able to utilise two methods to identify search terms, that you can apply different search strategies to locate information resources, and you can utilise library academic literacy and research support services and locate referencing resources. So these are the steps in basic searching. So the first step that you have is to create a research question. After you've created your research question, you need to identify your keywords. The next step is to generate some synonyms, and then having a look at all your keywords, to start to use symbols if possible, and then you will combine all of the terms using Boolean operators if possible. Okay, so I guess there's a couple of tips here, and one of those we'll discuss a little bit later, is that once you've done these sort of first basic steps, is that you need to decide what kind of information you're looking for. Are you looking for background information or foreground information? Because this will change where you search. And it's a really good idea to build your search progressively and assess the results as you go. So the most common mistake that inexperienced researchers do when they're searching for information is they don't create a research question. They get some basic ideas around what the keywords are and put those into the databases. And the result of that is that you often get a lot of irrelevant results because your question's not really focused. So one of the first things that you need to do before you start your research is create a research question. So I guess the thing is, how do you do that? So I want you to have a look at this scenario. I'll read it out for you. It uses a lot of words that I don't understand, and I'm hoping that you do. And it says that atrial fibrillation is one of the most common sustained cardiac arrhythmias. AF may be asymptomatic, but may cause palpitations, chest pain, shortness of breath or fainting. If left untreated, it's a significant risk factor for stroke and other morbidities. Transthoracic echocardiography allows imaging of the heart and blood flow. Echocardiography enables the diagnosis of cardiac abnormalities earlier than would be possible if symptoms were less to develop. Currently, only selected patients with AF are recommended for TTE, and those who have clinically suspect heart disease or for whom further information is needed for treatment. However, some have suggested that TTE, because of its ability to identify cardiac abnormalities earlier, should be performed routinely on newly diagnosed AF patients, even when asymptomatic. Now, what you've got here is a requirement to investigate and discuss your findings and make a recommendation. So the point here is that there is no research question yet. So if you start looking for keywords to investigate this scenario, the results are likely to be quite broad and quite, you'll sort of get a whole lot of irrelevant results. So the first thing that you need to do in regard to something like this is to make a research question, decide what you want to know about this. One of the frameworks that you can use, this is commonly used in medicine, is called the PICO framework. Now, PICO is just a structure that helps you to identify the key components within a scenario. So you'll ask yourself something like, what's the population or the phenomena or the problem that's being referred to? That's the P. What's the interest area or the investigation or the intervention that's being discussed? C is what's the comparison or what's the context. And O is what's the outcome or the observation that you want to make. So it's just a structure for you to pull out some terms that you can use to identify the key words. So in this case, our P is people with atrial fibrillation. Our I is transthoracic echocardiography. Our C is diagnostic accuracy. And our O is cardiac pathologies. So now that we've got these sort of key words, we have to design a research question. And at this point, you could have lots of different research questions, but the one that I've come up with for today is, in people with atrial fibrillation, can transthoracic echocardiography accurately diagnose clinically important cardiac pathologies? Okay, so now you have a clear focus for the kind of information that you're looking for. Sometimes what will happen is in an assignment you'll be given a particular research question and asked to investigate that research question. And in that case, you can use the D&T approach, which is to delete any non-discipline words within the research question. So if we have a look at the question that I just created, in people with atrial fibrillation, can transthoracic echocardiography accurately diagnose clinically important cardiac pathologies? If I take out non-discipline words, I get something that looks like this, which once again brings up almost exactly the same words that we were looking for before. So now we've got our keywords. What we want to do is go out and look for some information. And here's where we need to decide what type of information we're looking for. Are we looking for foreground information or background information? And I'm just going to explain how those are different. So background information is the general information or established facts, the general knowledge about a condition. The who, what, when or why, where and how of a condition or a disorder And these are things that you'll find in books or texts or manuals. And the place that you find them is in the library search box. The other type of information is foreground information, and that's about a particular aspect of clinical decision making, guidelines or summaries or primary research. And you'll find those in our library databases. So the first thing I want to do is go and have a look at searching in the library search box. But bear with me while we get there. Okay, so I'm hoping that you're still able to see the screen. You should be seeing the library homepage. Would that be correct?
No, Lily, we've still got your PowerPoint up.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so here we are, and we're looking at the library homepage, and this is where you access the catalogue, the library search box. And so we might want some basic information about what atrial fibrillation is. So we just type in the term and wait for the results. Now, the library search box is what they call a discovery search mode. And so what it does is it goes out and it brings back absolutely everything that it can find. So your first results will have not only books, but also journal articles or newspapers, all these different kinds of content types over here. So if we know that we're looking for background information, the first thing that we want to do is to put in a refinement for books. So from these 200,000, we're immediately down to 205. So the next thing that we want to think about is how current is this information? And we've got a publication date filter here. So we can tick that and we can change that to 2015. So now we're looking at information in the last 5 years. And because you're at home, the next thing you want to do is make sure that there's full text online. So you want to get all the ebooks. So come down here and then we're going to apply the filter. Okay, so now we have 95 results. When you come into the library search box, this is what we would call a basic search. And a basic search is pretty much a one-line search. We have no control, or not a lot of control over here about what we can search and where we can search. So even though we can control for the type of research, we have no other controls that we can use to make the search more focused. So this is a very basic kind of place to look for resources. If we were to add, let's see, echo to the search. So we had 91 results there. We're already down to, let me try that again. It's always helpful to spell the word correctly. And so here you can see that we have to put the filters on again, which can be really frustrating and very annoying. And the way to get around that is to come up here to the advanced search function. And you'll see that the terms are already sitting there. We can come over here, now put in a constraint for the books. We can put in a constraint for the last 5 years. Now, when we search this way, these restraints will stay in place. The only one that we can't keep to stay permanently is the full text online. So if we run that search again, So from that 91, we came down to 28 books that have both of those terms involved in them. The other thing to think about here, of course, is while we've got the restraint on for books, we might actually have wanted to look for book chapters because it's likely that that would be inside a book. And the way we would do that would be to start the search again. And over here in content type, we can make a choice. If I can remove the filter. Okay, no, it's not letting me remove the filter here because I've got them up here. I go to quick search, run this search again. Very annoying. Okay, let me take this completely out. So over here, my content type, my first indication I went for books. And so I'm just looking here to see if there are any book chapters, but I'm not getting anything there. Okay, so if I go back and take this one out, and you can see the limitations of searching here in the search box. Okay, so here we could have gone for books and book chapters, put in our date restraint, put in the full text restraint. But really, this is the place that you would go at the very beginning of the search to make yourself familiar with the literature around the area that you're interested in. But very quickly, you would move away from that, straight into the library database. So let me see if I can get back to the PowerPoint. Now, can you see the PowerPoint or has it gone again? Hello?
It's gone again.
I practiced this morning and I was able to do this. I'm really sorry, but it doesn't seem to be working now. Okay, so we're back here. Okay, so this was just taking you through the searching there. Now, when we go into looking into the library databases, we want to go back and think about the steps in basic searching. So we've created the research question, we've identified the keywords. Our next step, particularly when you're going into the databases, is to generate synonyms. And that just means trying to think of other words that you can use in place of the terms that you've used in your PK. The next step would be to apply symbols if possible. Now, I hope to demonstrate this to you when we go into the databases, but using symbols is something like using the asterisk to find truncation. And that just means that, say if we were looking for the term echocardiography, if we took the Y off it and replaced the Y with an asterisk, the database would search not only for cardiography, but also for cardiographies, the plural. So when you put the truncation using the asterisk, it tells the database to look for all the alternative headings for that word. Another symbol that you could use is the wildcard symbol. It may not come up in the search, but say if you were looking for something on pediatrics. And in pediatrics, in the American spelling, it's PED, but in the English spelling, I think it's PAE. And so you can use a wildcard in place of the A to tell the database to look for both ways of spelling. And the last one is to combine the terms using Boolean operators if possible. And the Boolean operators are things like AND, which we just used in the library catalogue, or, which is how you combine your synonyms, and NOT. And it's usually not a good idea to use the not because the not tends to wipe out results that you also need. So if the term that you're looking for is in a journal article and the term that you're not looking for is in the same journal article, if you use not, you'll lose that one as well. So here, what I've tried to do with my limited knowledge is to think about these terms and what might be an alternative term for it. So atrial fibrillation, from the scenario, I could see that this was a commonly used term. You would probably know more terms here. Here for transthoracic echocardiography, I came up with heart sonography, and I'll show you how I found that out. And here we've got diagnostic accuracy or prognostic accuracy and pathology or abnormality. So what we're going to try and do now is go back, pardon me, and I'll show you some searches in the database, which means that we'll probably have to stop sharing again. But I'll just bring up that page first. Okay, so we're back at the library homepage, is that correct?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so if we go back, if we want to go into the library databases, which will give us more control over searching, there are two ways to do that. The simplest database that we have is Google Scholar. And I imagine that a number of people have used Google Scholar. Would that be right? Well, let's just assume that it is, because I think everybody uses Google Scholar from time to time. And Google Scholar can be a great place to start a search. Okay, so we've got a whole lot of results here. Okay, so we're down to 85,000 words, results. And over here on the left-hand side, we have some controls that we can use to refine a search in Google Scholar. And this one is for date. We'll go into custom range, just to give us 5 years. Okay, so it's brought the results down. But you can see there's not an awful lot that we can do to control this search. And if you want to try and add terms in here, it gets quite difficult. We would need to put these parentheses in to introduce the Boolean operator or. We can also have an and here. We can try using phrase searching to make sure that we get this term. Phrase searching is just putting these quotation marks around a term. It'll tell the database that it wants exactly these words in this order. Without doing that, sometimes you'll get a result, which is uncommon probably with this term, but the first word could be at the start and the second word could be at the end of an article, but we want the two of them right beside each other. Okay, so I'm using these parentheses to separate the terms. So it's a way of telling the database exactly what you want it to do. So what will happen in this case is the database will go out and look for all of these terms first and then combine those with the results of all of these terms. So let's give that a go and see what happens. Okay, want to make sure that I've got everything spelt correctly here. So we've been able to come down, but it seems to me that it's actually introduced some more irrelevant results. And we don't have a lot of controls to fix that up in Google Scholar. So Google Scholar is a great place to come and start a search. But really, even if we go into the advanced search options here, the advanced search options are really, really limited. So we really need to be working in a database that gives us a few more options than Google Scholar. And we can do that by coming into the library databases here, into e-resources. And for today, I'm going to take you in and show you some searching in Medline. So this is the medicine subject guide. So in this centre menu, there are lots of resources for medicine. Some books here on the left-hand side, some links out here. But today what we're looking for is Medline, and I like to use Ovid Medline. The library does have multiple subscriptions to Medline. So if you're used to working in the EBSCOhost database, we also have a Medline in EBSCOhost. And if you're used to working in PubMed, we also have a subscription, well not a subscription, but a link out to PubMed that then is linked to our databases. So let's go in and have a look at this. So have I been able to bring you with me? Or are we lost again?
No, we've got you putting your code in.
Excellent. Okay, so this is what the Ovid interface looks like. And you'll see that there are a number of different ways to search in Ovid. So we have this basic search function here. We have an advanced search function here. And another way to do an advanced search is this multi-field function. What I'm going to demonstrate to you today is the basic search and the multi-field search. We'll leave the advanced search for another time because this is, as we work up in ways of searching, it really goes 1, 2, and 3. So we'll look at these two today. So let's go over to the basic search. Just going to catch up with my notes here. Okay, so here in the basic search in Ovid, this works very much like Google Scholar. So if we put in these two terms, atrial fibrillation and transvagal, whatever it is, we'll do the search and see what results come up. Okay, now what I want you to see here is this include related terms. So when we conducted the search, this was already ticked. So when it comes to looking for synonyms, the database has actually tried to do that for us. So down here, it's telling you exactly the words that it looked for when it conducted this search, okay? So the first thing that we would do in regard to our question is have a look at the results and see if we think that any of those are suitable. And this one looks great. Now, the reason this looks so good is because at the moment on my interface, I've made a selection here to sort by score. So when you come in to have a look at it yourself, yours might be set to year of publication. So it's going to take a little while to load. And while it does, I'll just explain to you what the score means. So down here in the score, just these 5 stars, which you can see here, it means it's done a search where all of our terms have been included. So out of all the results that it got, up here, these 9,000, here, out of those, these ones with the 5 stars have all of the terms included. So you can see here, now that we've sorted by date, we've got ones with only 4 stars. Look at this one, it's really old. So we want to do some controls around that. So let's go back in the first instance and put the constraint on for 5 stars. Okay, so now we've got everything with 5 stars, but we still have really old results. Sorry. Let's sort by score. And so the next thing that we need to do is control for the years, and that's down here. So let's say last 5 years. Okay, so it's looking. And what we want to do also is have that in our search history. So let's just click there to add to search history. And then up here, it's going to show you the difference that it's made. So from the 9,000, we limit to 5 stars. We went down to 2,000, and then we limited by year, and we're down to 2,000. So then we can have a look and see whether we think that there's anything useful here. Now the downside of using the basic search function is there's not a lot that we can do around connecting things with Boolean operators, so the or the and if we do use those, it tends to be a little bit confused. So this is what's called a natural query search. That's what the basic search does. So you can virtually type in a question here and it'll do its best to answer that question. But if we want more control over it, then we have to move to something else. So we could come here into the multi-field function. Now, in the multi-field, we have more control. So here I can say, I want to search for atrial fibrillation or AF, and I want to search for transthoracic echocardiography or heart sonography. And so now I'm going to get transthoracic echocardiographies or heart sonographies. Yeah. And I could add a different term here. I could put something in about diagnosis or prognosis here. And these are all being connected with that Boolean operator of AND, which means I want results that have this and this and this in them. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that one of the hints was to build up slowly. So I'm going to take this out for the time being. Now, one of the other things I said earlier was that when we do a basic search, we don't have any controls over where the database is doing the search. So we want to put some controls over that. Now, at the moment, this is defaulting to a basic search, which would be to search all fields. And you can see here that these are all the fields that it's going to search. Not all of those are going to be relevant. So it could be that atrial fibrillation is mentioned in the title of the journal, and we're not interested in that. Or heart sonography could be the title of a journal. So we want to put some controls around that. And the most likely place for our terms to be are going to be in the title or in the abstract. So let me just select the abstract. for all of these. Okay, so I'm going to run this search and see what comes up. Okay, so we're down to 769 straight away. And again, we need to have a look through and see if any of these are useful. I can't really interpret these results, but let me imagine for one moment that I wanted to make some changes to this search. Now, one of the great things about using the multi-field search or the advanced search is the fact that we have this option here where we can edit the search. So just before I do that, imagine if I came down and said, okay, just give me the past 5 years. And I'm going to add that to my search history. Okay, so now I'm down to 274 results. So now I want to make an adjustment to this search here. So I can go in here to edit. And here. Now what I want you to notice here is that although the basic search was a great first search, there's nothing that we can do to change that search. There's no option there to edit. So it's a search that's a standalone search. So if you want to repeat the basic search, you have to do it all again. That's not the case when you're using a multi-field search. A multi-field search is highly editable. So let's go in and have a look at what I can do. So this at the moment is looking for atrial fibrillation or AF and transthoracic echocardiography or heart cardiography in the abstract. But I might also want to search for it in the title, and that's really easy to do. Or I might want to search for it as a subject heading. And so all I need to do is put those in there. I don't need to run the searches again. I can just adjust it. So let's just take this one out for the time being and run it okay. So there, it's made the change, and now it's going to run that change through here as well. So here we've had a change, and so now it's highlighting for us where these matches are occurring. And because we're searching across the title, it's very easy for us to see where the matches are. So this can make it a little bit easier when you're looking through to see, are these articles any good for what I'm looking for? Okay, does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes, great. Any questions at this point about that searching?
There aren't any in the chat room.
Great, okay, all right. So the next tool that you can use when you're doing searching is to do some citation tracking. So I found an article earlier. Oops. Just trying to get to, there we go. So are you still with me, or have I lost you?
We had the Google page just up there, yep, and the
Right.
library page now, yep.
Great, okay, so I'm going back to Google Scholar just to show you a little bit about citation tracking. Now, you are probably aware of the backwards citation tracking, and that's when you find an article that you think is really interesting and right on what you need. You can go into the reference list of that article and have a look at the works that inform that article, the things that have been cited within that article, and that's often a really good way to find other resources around the topic that you're interested in. Another way is to do forward citation tracking, and when you do that, you put the title of the article into Google, And I'm just going to type that in. Okay. Now this is an article that was actually sitting in those Ovid results. It's a systematic review, and when you're in Ovid, you can also put in a constraint that will show you only the systematic reviews or only show you the random control trials. And if you want to, just ask me and I'll take you back and show you how to do that. But for the time being, what we're going to do now is this forward citation tracking. So here we have the article, and there it is, it's come up here. And down here we have the cited by 17. So I can click on that, and that will take me through to all of the articles that cited this article. So this allows us to have articles that are newer than the articles that we started off with. So down here, we've got the role of atrial imaging in the management atrial fibrillation, or this one here. And this one here has been cited by 28, so we could go on and have a look at the people who've cited this one. So it's a non-systematic way of looking for more resources, but it can be very productive. The thing to be careful with using this technique is finding things that are interesting in the citations which aren't on your topic. It's very easy using this technique to lose a couple of hours just looking at things that are really interesting rather than things that you really need. So you need to be a little bit disciplined with yourself when you're using this technique. So that's showing you some information on basic searching. You've had some information on searching in Ovid, and you move from the basic search in Ovid to the multi-search field, which is an advanced form of searching where you were controlling for the fields and you were starting to introduce more and more synonyms into your search strategy. Okay, so the next thing to talk about today is to go back to our library homepage. I'm hoping that you're still with me.
Yep.
Great. Just going to move you a little bit. Now, the reason I brought you back to the library homepage is to take you into the Study Smart Zone. So if you're not used to writing academic essays or reports, this can be a great place to come to get some information on how to do that. So you just click here, Study Smart Zone. Okay, now there's a lot of different resources here. Some of the things that I find most interesting are over here, where we have the download the PDF guides. Okay, so here there's support around writing your assignments. So this is a great place to come if you're writing a case study or an essay or a reflection. If you're not used to paraphrasing, this one will explain what a paraphrase is. This explains the structure. This one explains information around quoting. And so if you put a lot of quotes in it in your assignment, you may not be subject to plagiarism because you're quoting. As long as you cite it correctly, there's no problem. But if you use lots of quotes, then what you're doing is introducing very poor academic writing. So this will take you in and explain to you a little bit about that process. This one here is really handy. This is your academic integrity checklist. So this is just something for you to have a look at before you hand your assignment in. Just go through these and make sure that you've ticked off all of these. When it comes to your referencing, just make sure that you've had a look through all of these and you've got those ticked off and correct in your assignment. Okay, now, I don't know if this is useful to you, but I think this is a great tool. This is your assignment calculator. And if you were writing your report, we would say test, create the assignment. So you can see here at the, oh sorry, I should have showed you. Just go back one and see if you'll let me demonstrate. So if I go into the assignment calculator. Okay, so the due date's a little bit of a problem here. But anyhow, we've got 60 days to do this assignment. And what it gives you is a timeline. So at the very beginning, it tells you the first step in an assignment is to gather all the assignment documents. And that this step should only take up 2% of your time and that it should be completed by such and such date. And then it gives you links to a number of different library resources to support this stage of your assignment. It takes you through the next stage and there's more and more resources made available for each stage that you go through. So it's great because you can have a time, complete this step by this date. So you've got a timeline to let you know when you should have a stage completed. Now you can also, if we go back to the Study Smart page, you can also get more help around academic literacy from the library. And these are the two things here. So you can meet with a Study Smart officer, so you can have a Zoom session face-to-face with someone who can have a look at your assignment and give you some information about whether it's sort of being structured properly, whether there's sort of grammar errors. They can't correct it for you, but they can have a look and give you a bit of guidance around what to do. They can help you to determine whether the assignment has been structured properly and that the argument presented makes sense. The other resource that you have, of course, is the Study Smart Online Studiosity. Now, this is a resource where you can submit your assignment and within 24 hours, you should get feedback. Again, very similar to the Study Smart officer on how this essay is hanging together, where you might need to make some corrections in regard to grammar. There's also the option, if you're really struggling, to have a longer session with the Study Smart officer. So if you feel you're in that situation, please let myself know, or Paul or Donna, and we can make a referral to a longer session with the Study Smart officer. You'll find lots of resources here to explain all of that to you. Of course, when it comes to finding resources, you can go through the library homepage. Over here, using the online librarian, and you can put your query in here and they'll get back to you. They're also offering virtual face-to-face with the Zoom librarian now because of the difficulties that we're having on campus. So make sure you use both of those if you need to. Are you back on the library homepage with me?
Yes, we are.
Great. Okay. Now, the next thing that you need to think about, of course, is after you've located your resources, integrated those resources into your assignment, you need to make sure that your referencing is done correctly. Now, the reasons why we reference are, one, to protect you against plagiarism. And that's when you inadvertently or on purpose use the ideas of someone else without acknowledging them. And that's really important in an academic environment, to acknowledge the work of others. There are other reasons why referencing is important, and that could be to place you in the context of an academic conversation. So hopefully, as you explore these ideas, you move from being a student to becoming a scholar in your own right. So you start reading the works of others, but then that works on what you already know, and you start generating your own ideas. So your essay becomes part of the discipline's conversation around this particular issue. The other reason to reference is when you make a point in your essay or your report, by putting in a citation, you're giving the person who's assessing your paper a context to why you're making this assertion. You're not just making it up out of the blue. It's coming from the discipline that you work in, the literature that supports and is foundational to what you know. So you're letting the person who's assessing your paper know where these ideas fit within the discipline. The last reason that you need to put in a citation is because it demonstrates to the person that's reading your essay that you have done some research to support what you're saying. So again, you're not just pulling it out of the blue. When you're putting in a citation, you're demonstrating that you went out and you read both broadly and deeply, and not only that you did that reading broadly and deeply, but that you were also able to process that information. And you're demonstrating that you understand the issues and the literature around the question that you're investigating. So it provides evidence to the person that's assessing you that you understand the things that you've been asked to learn. Now you do that by referencing any paraphrase that you might put in, or any quote, or any summary from an information resource that you've included in your essay or your report. Now the library supports you to do that by having some referencing guides here. Now the first of these that you can have a look at is this eyesight guide. So tell me if I lose you at any point, please. So here, step one would be to have a look for information on the Vancouver style. The second is to tell the database the particular kind of resource that you're looking for, and a little bit more information. So we're looking for a book in the Vancouver style with one author. And so what it's going to bring up is some information here about the reference entry. Then it's going to show you the basic format that's used in the Vancouver style. And then down here, it gives you an example of this particular resource in a bibliography. And down here it demonstrates the in-text citation. Now here is put the in-text citation as the superscript, which is probably the most common way of doing the Vancouver style, but you can also do the Vancouver style by using parentheses and a normal number one on the normal line. Here you can see an example bibliography as a pop-up. Now with the pop-up, did I keep you for the pop-up?
Yes, you did.
Great. Okay, so you can see that that's here, but we can also see all of these other resources as well. Now the thing with the Vancouver style is that these numbers are not alphabetical. They refer to the first time that this resource was referred to. So if you had Schneider as the first citation that you used, that would be number one rather than Andreessen, because it's a numbered style, it's not an alphabetical style. And then down here, of course, we have an example document where you can see here the citations are coming in. So in this particular, just because it looks a bit odd, I want to explain it to you. In this presentation here, Anderson number one would have already been mentioned further up in the essay. And that's at the very beginning of the essay, there would have been a citation to Anderson. But in this instance, Anderson has been mentioned again later in the essay. So when they are mentioned again, the same number stays with them. So that's why you get this. Now the next one is number 10 and then number 16. Now this one down here, so you can see again the same thing has happened here. We've got a 16 and a 14. So that would mean that number 14, whoever that was, down here we can see number 14, this one here, was actually mentioned earlier in this example essay, and we're just seeing an excerpt of it. And that's why numbers are not following through 1 to 10. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so that's one way of looking for resources on the Vancouver style. The second way is to come back into guides, go into referencing and citation, and then come down here to this PDF. Now, it's really important, most people don't do this, but it's great if you can bring yourself to read this first section of this document, because it explains so much about the referencing style and it helps to make sense. If you read through here as well, it will help you to understand the style. A lot of people just go straight to the referencing resource that they want and use the format. But really, if you just give yourself a chance to read this, you'll find that it makes a lot more sense. And here you can see that you actually have a choice about whether you want to insert the numbers as superscripts or whether you want to insert them as numbers within parentheses. Both of those are quite okay according to the Vancouver style. And this one here where we have a page number will occur when you're putting in a quote. So if you're putting in a direct quote from anywhere, it's really important that you include the page number in the style. This one here is probably referring to a summary that has gone over from pages 4 to 6. So the information in pages 4 to 6 have been summarised in what you put in your paper. Okay, and when you're using your quotations, use a double quotation mark here. And so here we can see that the author has been mentioned. There's the citation, there's the page number, and there's the quote that's been used. This part here demonstrates when you're doing a longer quote, direct quote from a resource. And so at this point, you don't need to put in the quotation marks, but you need to indent it. That's another way of letting the reader know that you're not claiming this is your original work. This is actually the work of Mulan. This section here will help you to understand the basics of what you need to do around formatting in the Vancouver style. So here the numbered list should be single space with one line space between each entry. It talks about the capitalisation. So in the Vancouver style, we capitalise at the beginning, and then everything else is in lowercase unless we're talking about a proper noun or an acronym. So, for instance, here. Here, just to note that even following the colon in the Vancouver style, you use the lowercase. So if you had been used to APA, I think following the colon, they start again with a capital, but that's not the case in the Vancouver style. The other thing to note, of course, is in the Vancouver style, we use abbreviations for journal names. And if you have any problems finding those abbreviations, you can go to Citing Medicine, or you can put the article into PubMed, and then it'll bring them up with the abbreviation. Okay. And then what you need to do, the final part of understanding this guide, is it's organised firstly for books, and in the books it demonstrates the single author, 2 authors, 3 authors or more, what you would do in each of those cases, and pardon me, what you do for the author stays the same, whether it's a journal article or a book or a newspaper article or whatever kind of information resource it is. The conventions for the author will not change. What will change is this section here. So this is how it would look for a book. And if we go and have a look at journal articles, you can see that things change there. And what we need to do for a journal article that's online is different to what we need to do for a journal article in print. And basically, what you'll do here is go through all of the resources. Here you can say, okay, tell me something about systematic review. And you can just click and it'll be linked to that, and you'll get a guide on how to create that citation. Now, for your, in your case, you may find that this guide is a little bit incomplete, and I think that's quite correct. We're starting a project soon to update this guide. There are a number of resources that aren't mentioned, and so what you would need to do, say for learning how to do cite a figure, would be to come in here to Citing Medicine. I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through these. So if we have a look at this, can you see this PowerPoint now?
Yes, we can.
Great, okay. So in this case, there's an image here. I hope it makes sense to you. It doesn't make any sense to me. And what we've got down here, oh, I beg your pardon, is the citation for that. So this was actually an image taken from an edited book. So the general rule is that you cite the larger work first. So that's the chapter in the edited book. So we follow here, that's the name of the chapter. In, this is the name of the book. It's an electronic book, so we've got the format in for internet. It's the 5th edition. This is the place of publication, and it's produced by Elsevier. And this is the copyright date, and the chapter is page 147 to 165. Then after we have that in, we put in the details of the figure. And then following that, we have the square brackets where you put in the date that you cited. So the cited date follows year, March and 3, and the date. And then this section here where you've got colour, M mode, Doppler, that's to try and give the person that's trying to track this down some indication in the ebook of where they would find that. So this is colour and the Doppler is actually a subsection of that ebook. So you're trying to give them some directions. So they already know that it's going to be page 147 to 165, but where within there are they going to find this? And so that colour and the Doppler is to give them a bit of a hint of where that is. So sometimes you'll see a figure and then the brackets will say one screen. So it means that it's on this screen, the landing screen of where you get to that website. Or it might say second paragraph. So if we were able to give one page, we could say second paragraph, so we can direct the person that wants to follow this to exactly where it is. I hope that makes sense to you. All right. So that's just about the end, I think, for me. Of course, for any follow-up, you can come in and use the online librarian over here. Type in your name and then type in a question. There are restricted hours at the moment because of the COVID-19 response. And you'll see those hours on the web page, on the library homepage. But we do have alternative services within those hours. So not only can you put the question through to an online librarian, but now if that inquiry is a little bit more extensive, that inquiry will be sent through to a liaison librarian or a Study Smart librarian who can work with you a bit longer on that. We've also got, of course, the Zoom down here, and that could be, you could send me an email and say, look, I don't really understand. Can you explain this part of searching to me a bit more? And I'd be very happy to do that. Or you can send me an email and you can say, okay, look, I've got this resource here. I'm a little bit confused about how to cite it. Can you give me some advice on that? And I'll have a look and I'll give you my advice on that. And then I would CC Paul or Donna, whoever your unit coordinator was, to say this is the advice that I've given the student. And of course you can ring, but if you ring, you need to ring through to Information Central. You can't ring directly to the campuses at the moment because there's no one out there taking the call at the desk. They'll all be in the staff areas doing the Zoom. So that's a great way to contact the library. And believe me, we really want to support you with your studies, particularly this time. So please don't hesitate to contact us if you need any support with any part of this or any part of your studies. Any questions?
No.
Any questions in the chat?
No, there's no questions in the chat.
Any part you would like me to go over? So I guess what I can do then is just check with you, just to finish off. We've listed the steps in the basic and the advanced searching. So when we did the basic searching, that was the searching in the database, in the library search box, and then the basic search in Ovid. When we did the advanced searching, that was when we were looking at the multi-field searching. The two different methods to identify search terms, the PICO method or the delete non-specific discipline words. We used different strategies in the search box than we used in the advanced search in Medline. You now know where the support is for the academic literacy, and you also know where the support is for the referencing. And now I'm done.
That's great, Lily. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for showing us how to start and then refine things and reference things and use the appropriate sort of academic integrity and offers of help. So everyone, if I can encourage you, especially at these times when there may or may not be an opportunity, perhaps a little bit more than usual, to avail yourself of the library services. It'd be really helpful, I'm sure. So Lily, just via the chat, people are saying thank you mainly. So
Oh, great. Okay.
yeah, I'll reaffirm that. Thank you again. Okay, so, well, we might sign off. I'll say thank you again, Lily. Goodbye to all the vascular people. Cardiac people, I'll see you on the other, via the other link in just a couple of minutes. See you there. Thanks, Lily.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Bye,
Cheers.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.